Some great material has been presented today, and I'm happy to be a part of it. Again, my name is Darren Meyers. I am with Clarus Environmental, which is also a part of the Zoller Company. And we offer a number of different wastewater treatment technologies as well as other septic type products, including the fusion system, which I will get to in detail here in just a little bit. We also offer kits for recirculating media filter systems for systems, perhaps larger systems, communities that are looking for a more centralized, decentralized system. We also do kits for certain kinds of certain kinds of constructed wetland systems that we offer as well. So we've had a lot of really good discussion of technology today, and I'd like to take a few minutes at the beginning and step away from technology. I'd like to talk about the Zoller Company first, if I may. Clarus Environmental is a part of the Zoller Company, and I've been fortunate enough to work there for about 13 years. In the entirety of that time, I've dealt with applications. I've dealt predominantly with the onsite wastewater industry, with onsite wastewater professionals, and it's been a good ride. Zoller is a neat company in that it offers a wide variety of products. We are first and foremost have been since 1939 a pump company. It was actually started by Mr. August Zoller. He was referred to as Pop by everyone at the time, and he started the Zoller Company. He had an idea that he could build a better sump pump. This actually happened about 2 years after a flood that happened, a very big flood that wiped out our region in 1937. 2 years later, Pop Zoller is opening up a sump pump shop, and it's still family owned today. Our CEO is John Zoller. It's Pop's grandson, and there are a lot of other family members that sit on the board. So ownership as well as control of the company is still family run. We're a lot bigger than we were back in August's day. We have in Louisville around 400 employees, and that includes a pretty impressive manufacturing operation. We also have a lot of different branches elsewhere around the United States and the world that Zoller owns. This is John. Some of you in this room may have met John at one time or other. He shows up at different events and trade shows. John is a professional engineer as well, and he's been running the company for about 15 years. And this picture was taken a few years back. We had a celebration where we rolled off our 13 millionth pump, and so we've been at this for a while. And but John is the head of a company that is, again, very family oriented, and he pulled all of the managers of the company in about 2 months ago, and he sat us all down and he asked us a question, and he said, "Why is it that we are here? Why do we do what we're doing?" And some folks raised their hand and threw out some answers, and ultimately he came around and he said, "We do what we do for one thing, and it's to make people's lives better." And that wasn't a tagline. John means that very, very much. We make products for the water industry. Our pumps move water around. We have pumps that move sewage around. We have pumps that move fresh water around. We have products that treat wastewater. And even our operation in Louisville, it employs a lot of people and it employs a lot of families. And so he was dead serious about it. Obviously everybody is in it to make a profit, but we make a profit to support people. You'll also hear John talk about 4 core values that are really, really important to our company, and that is quality, service, innovation, and integrity. And we have a strong reputation. A lot of homeowners don't necessarily know the Zoller Company, but if you talk to a plumbing professional, they will almost undoubtedly know who we are. We have a very strong reputation for putting out quality products. And that means a lot to us, and we're really careful to protect that reputation. We want to be a company that's easy to deal with, and we are absolutely a company that will back up its products. And we're not always perfect. We've made mistakes, but I think the measure of a company is very often how they handle those mistakes and move forward, how you learn from that and you grow. These are just some of the brands that the Zoller Company has in its wheelhouse, so to speak. It's the Zoller Pump Company. Flint and Walling is in northern Indiana. Lincoln Industries is in southern Indiana. Zoller Engineered Products and Zoller Pump Company, as well as Clarus Environmental in the middle, are all out of Louisville, Kentucky. We also have operations in Minnesota and in Texas. We make pumps for the Asian market in Taiwan. We have a wastewater treatment company in China. We have branches that extend in a lot of places and touch a lot of people. But we're going to focus predominantly on Clarus Environmental, which again produces products more for the on-site wastewater market. I touched on this a minute ago, but we have several different types of wastewater treatment products specifically. We also have filtration products, step systems for pressure sewer applications. But I'm going to talk for the majority of my time here about one of those in particular. Before I get there, I want to talk about some of the stages that we go through in the on-site wastewater market. Primary treatment, as many of you know, is another term generally for what you would have in a septic tank. It's mainly solid settling. You'll certainly have some treatment that happens biologically, perhaps as much as 50% waste strength reduction through a septic tank if it's properly operating. Secondary or advanced secondary treatment often comes in a lot of different forms. But it is going to take that water that comes out of a septic tank most often and then treat it to a much higher degree. Tertiary treatment is a third step beyond that. Often it's disinfection, where you're specifically targeting pathogens, or potentially certain nutrients. I know nitrogen and phosphorus have been mentioned today as certain nutrients that are targeted for removal. Often secondary treatment levels, just standard secondary treatment, I guess historically was referred to in terms of about 30 milligrams per liter BOD and 30 milligrams per liter TSS, less than, I should say. And that was generally because if you get below those limits, there's a far less chance of a thick biomat forming in the soil. And so if you're dealing with tight clays or really heavy soils, you don't necessarily want a thick biomat to form because it has a tendency to plug up those channels. So the whole idea in treating that water is that you take a burden off of the soil in many of those instances. Now, a few years ago, the Consortium of Institutes for Decentralized Wastewater Treatment, the CIDWT, published a glossary of on-site wastewater terms, and it's really, really handy. You can find it on their website. It's great. But they defined advanced secondary treatment as basically treatment that achieves 95% reduction in BOD and TSS, generally to levels below 10 milligrams per liter. And so it's with that I want to talk about the Fusion series of wastewater treatment systems specifically. With that, I'm going to jump over and try to, I'll play a video, and I'm going to try to get the audio, but I've had to jiggle that around a little bit too, so hopefully it'll work out for us.
The Fusion Series Treatment Units by Clarus Environmental. The Fusion is an advanced wastewater treatment system. Technology develops with time to meet the specific needs of people. The technology to safely and efficiently treat wastewater is no exception. As our population grows, so does our need to be more conscientious about waste treatment. Clarus Environmental brings advanced technology to the on-site wastewater market with the Fusion Series treatment units. The Fusion is designed to receive all of the waste flow from a typical residence. An optional septic tank may be installed if required by local or state regulations. The Sedimentation Chamber is the first chamber within the Fusion. Its primary purpose is to separate bulk solids, fats, oils, and greases from the incoming sewage. It allows effluent from the clear zone to move on to the next chamber. The anaerobic chamber is next in the fusion process. This chamber contains large plastic media, which acts as a mechanical filter for the effluent, as well as providing surface area on which anaerobic bacteria can grow and thrive. Organisms form a biomass on the media and feed on the incoming waste constituents, thereby cleaning the water. The biomass will continue to grow and die and eventually slough off, and new bacteria will take its place. Some denitrification will occur within this chamber. The aerobic chamber is the third chamber within the fusion process. This fluidized bed is filled with specially designed media on which aerobic bacteria can grow. This chamber has two separate air piping grids. The upper grid is activated nearly all the time, providing air to aerate and tumble the upper 2/3 of the media while allowing the remaining 1/3 to serve as a mechanical filter. The Fusion's dual outlet blower provides air to oxygenate this compartment, and it powers the aeration, recirculation, and backwash operations. The low energy consumption blower makes the Fusion very economical to operate. Also during this time, a recirculation pipe returns treated effluent via an airlift pump back to the head of the sedimentation chamber. Twice a day, the Fusion will automatically undergo a backwash cycle when the blower switches the airflow from one outlet to the other. This activates the lower air grid to churn all of the material within the chamber, which dislodges excess solids from the media. At the same time, a backwash pipe extending into the bottom of this area vacuums the solids and returns them to the head of the system. The clean water storage chamber is the final chamber in the fusion process and serves as a storage compartment for treated wastewater. The Fusion from Clarus Environmental provides the owner with a system that is easy to maintain, adjustable for treatment, and engineered for long life. The media carries a lifetime warranty and will never need to be replaced. For more information, please contact a Clarus Environmental representative at 1-800-928-7867 or at fusion@zoller.com. Thank you for your interest. We look forward to helping you help our environment.
Excellent. Okay, here we're back at it again. So I like that video because you can see there's a lot going on inside of a fusion system, and that little video helps, I think, to give you a good understanding. We have cutaways that we take to shows and to illustrate and be able to talk people through that process. And it might on one level, it is certainly a lot more complicated than other systems that you might see on the market. But there are a lot of people who have been in wastewater treatment operations for a long time, and they look at that system and they say, I know exactly what's going on there. Because the system is really a scaled down version, a very efficient version of a more conventional wastewater treatment plant. And it's got all of the elements are there. Some of the primary benefits with regard to the Fusion, I guess first and foremost is its size. The 450 treats 450 gallons per day. It easily fits in the back of a pickup truck. It weighs about 400 to 500 pounds, so it can actually be pretty easily manhandled onto a small property and set in the ground. The ZF 800, which is designed to handle 800 gallons per day, would slide onto a small utility trailer with ease. There isn't a septic tank that's required. The system is designed actually to receive raw sewage from the house. The first two compartments in the Fusion, and I'll talk about it in detail in just a moment, are designed to do what a septic tank does. So in rough applications going in where we expect it's going to be high strength, it might be beneficial to put an additional tank in front of it to provide some additional capacity. But in most instances, especially residential, we would not recommend putting a septic tank in front of it. It's designed to receive that. Yeah, I said in certain applications where we might expect really high strength waste to be coming down the line, it could be beneficial to have an additional tank in front of it. But for the most part, we would not recommend putting a septic tank in front, because it often in a residential type application, a septic tank can take enough waste out of the water that it can be difficult to feed the remainder of the system. Yeah, so we would in most instances recommend that you don't put a septic tank in front of it. Did I skip one there? Yeah, the third item on the list that I had here is there's really nothing within that system that you can mess up, and I actually stated up there you can't ruin them. We've had applications before where during a remodel, painters have come in. When the painters are finished, they take their excess paint and they dump it down the drain. If it were a conventional trickling filter, that would be grounds for replacing all of that media. What happened here? It did require a pump out because at that point the system's been poisoned. But you can pump that thing out and you start over again. The media is all a plastic media. That particular site that I had in mind with the paint, it was blue on the interior for the remainder of its life, but after we pumped it out and started the thing back up again, it's no worse for the wear. It chugs right along. Installation is pretty simple. You basically dig a hole, drop it in, hook up the inlet and the outlet. There are two air lines, which the video indicated, that connect to the blower, and then you would hook up the power to the control panel into the blower. The control panel is really just a monitor. The blower does everything necessary, but the panel monitors it, making sure that everything is operating the way it should, and will sound an alarm if there's a problem. These systems are completely adjustable. There are a couple of valves on the inside where you can adjust the recirculation rate as well as the backwash rate, and that really allows you to customize it to an application. If there is if there's a home that where the system is not running particularly well, you can make adjustments. You can change the recirculation rate and tweak that system to really dial it in and customize it to an application. The last item that I have here is that they're really reliable in that they have fixed media in two chambers, both an anaerobic chamber, which again is helping to do what a septic tank would do, as well as in an aerobic chamber. And they're different media in both of those chambers, but they're both plastic. They don't break down or degrade. And the media within that system has been colonized by the anaerobic or aerobic bacteria, they can go through sustained periods of time without input into the system. So if you have a system that is a summer home, let's say, where people are coming and going seasonally, once that system is populated, it can go nearly a year, just let the thing run, and the bacteria are still present. There are other kinds of systems, suspended growth systems, where bacteria simply sort of rotate around through the water, maybe under the action of a blower, and those systems can be susceptible to washouts. If you get a huge surge flow that comes through, it can turn over basically the contents of that system, and then you have to start over building up a new population. The fixed media within the fusion systems keeps that from happening. There's going to be a bacteria population present for quite some time, even after you cease putting waste into it. This is the general process. Water comes in, or sewage comes into one compartment. You have a sedimentation chamber that the majority of the solids will settle out into. That is also where the recirculation and the backwash lines feed back into, so everything feeds into that sedimentation chamber. The sedimentation chamber subsequently feeds into an anaerobic chamber with media. That media, the first two chambers do what a septic tank would do. They're anaerobic predominantly, designed to settle solids and put that water in contact with a lot of anaerobic bacteria. That feeds then into an aeration chamber, which is fed by the blower, and twice a day in the middle of the night when there's very little flow coming through the system, that aeration chamber will go through a backwash, and it'll deliver any sludge from the aerobic process back to the head of the unit. So one of the things in an aerobic type wastewater treatment system, sludges are produced pretty readily. The process of aerobic treatment is fast, but it's not so efficient. Anaerobic, by comparison, what would happen in the first two chambers or what happens in a septic tank takes a little more time, but it's more efficient. The breakdown happens more effectively. There's less sludge over time. So the aeration chamber, when it does its backwash, it delivers those sludges that are produced during the day back to the head of the system. So there's also an iteration that happens between an anaerobic environment to an aerobic environment back to an anaerobic environment. And if anybody was watching the presentation earlier about the nitrogen cycle, that's where you get your nitrification and your denitrification. Lastly, out of that aeration chamber, water flows over into a storage chamber where there's a final clarification that happens. Any treatment solids that get out have the ability to settle out before that water finally leaves the system. It's a gravity flow through. There aren't any pumps associated with it. The blower runs an airlift pump, which is basically just a pipe. You bubble air into the bottom of it, and it helps to lift that water up just enough to be able to get some recirculation flow that moves back to the front of the system. Looking at these sort of quickly, the sedimentation chamber, again, is the first stop. You get the majority of your solids settling out there. The anaerobic chamber has a large media. It's about the size of a grapefruit, small grapefruit maybe, large orange, and so a bunch of those pieces are in that second chamber, and they're trapped between two cages. And so all of the water that moves through that system has to move through that media layer, and so it comes in contact with all of those aerobic bacteria. So if you were to liken it back to a septic tank, in a septic tank you have a sludge layer in the bottom, and that sludge layer is very biologically active. This is effectively like taking that sludge blanket or that sludge layer in the bottom, elevating it, and then passing your wastewater through it in a way that the water really comes in contact very effectively with the anaerobic bacteria. As it moves, moves through the bottom of that layer, and it travels up a baffle to get to the next chamber, which is the aeration chamber. And the blower is feeding air into that chamber. There's a much smaller media that moves and churns and swirls in that environment. Again, it's a fixed media. The media cannot escape, and so the bacteria that colonize it will stay inside that system. This is just a quick look at the air grid. There's an upper air grid and a lower air grid. Normally, only the upper air grid runs, churns that water around, and the lower, the media below that section form a mechanical filter. When it does a backwash, the lower filter picks up and churns as well, and it sort of vacuums that chamber out, returns any sludges that accumulated back to the head of the system. Storage chamber is pretty simple. We are NSF Standard 40 approved. The system, when it went through NSF, obtained performance level of 9 milligrams per liter CBOD and 9 milligrams per liter TSS. We at Zoller are also very realistic. We're fairly pragmatic about our products. And if I can get poetic for a second, the history of on-site wastewater treatment in the U.S. is a road that's littered with a lot of magic boxes and broken promises. And there are a lot of people that have built systems out of their basement on a whim or out of their garage on a whim, and have sold them until something goes wrong, and then they're out of business and they're on to the next thing. The reason I wanted to talk about Zoller at the beginning is because we've been around for a long time, almost 80 years. And we're going to be here another 80 years and beyond. We put products into the marketplace that we believe in, that we have a lot of faith in, and our systems perform well. But neither it nor anything else on the market is a magic box. And the vast majority of systems that one of these will, or applications that one of these will go into, these systems will work well. They're not going to work well all the time, and that's any treatment system that you put in. That's reality. Anybody that tells you otherwise is selling you a magic box, and you can take that for what it's worth. Again, the two Fusion models that we have is a 450 as well as an 800. We do have large commercial models available as well, but those are by far the bulk of what we do. And just a final slide here to reiterate the fact that we do have large scale systems that we can do. We work with engineers around the country. If you are interested in this product as well as the Fusion system, we work locally with Onsite Engineering and Mr. Eric Murdoch, who is right here in New York. And we have a booth outside. Feel free to take some literature or get in touch with us. But I thank you guys for letting me be here today. Yeah, thank you.